Spears and Steinberg.
You know what the fuck it is?
Aries and Andy, Jew and the Jerk.
You know it's time to get this work.
The real raw, gutter, uncut cocaine. No political corrections.
Always sleep.
Fuck being awoke. We discuss politics and jokes.
Scribe, we lit.
There's levels to this shit. Before you was sucking on your mama's tit.
Aries Spears don't give a fuck.
We talk about race a lot, racism,
Sexism.
Much love to my loyal bitch bag holders.
Rollers, clip loaders.
We got them in the folders.
The whole world on our shoulders.
Spears and Steinberg.
Yeah.
Got enough battery juice? Yeah. Full juice. Both nuts are juiced.
We're
Yeah, we just opened up on both nuts are juiced. Before we get to anything, last night we're here in Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse.
Yes. In the green room, they sometimes some of the clubs provide tasty goodies, tasty treats, which I never indulge in.
Snacks.
Yes, because I'm in show mode. What time is it? Game time. So that's my mindset.
Just so that you make this clear to everybody, Aries doesn't eat after 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock preferably, 1 o'clock ideally.
Yes. 1, 2, and 3. I don't want to put anything on my stomach for 5 to 6 hours before a performance. However, last night I'm in the green room here in Syracuse, and in the basket was some Sun Chips, which those Sun Chips, they're okay. That's that cheese flavor. They're okay.
Like cheese and paper.
Paper, like writing paper.
Yeah,
that's a great thing. Cardboard almost.
Yeah. Like just a puffy paper.
Yes, it's people. I imagine people that play ukulele in the park barefoot eat Sun Chips, or Erykah Badu type chicks. Anyway, so there's the Sun Chips. There's these cookies. What's the name of that? Pepperidge Farm.
And
cookies.
They were decent cookies.
And then there's a bag of what caught my eye. Pretzel pieces, pretzel bites, not like broken pretzel pieces, sourdough, buffalo flavor.
Yeah.
To die for.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Dude.
I didn't eat that many. I had a few, but
dude,
it was good.
Yeah. When I get back home, I might even anyway, I'm saying I stole the bag. I didn't steal it. It's my green room for the weekend. So
I'm hoping they replace it.
Well, whatever's in there is for us.
That would be nice if they put another bag in there.
Yes. So I took the whole bag because my goal was to lay in bed this morning or this afternoon and snack on those. But I am going to take those with me back on the plane so that I can go to the grocery store at home and find this specific brand of buffalo style flavor.
Specific?
I said, I know where you're going, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we can save that for
all
later.
right.
Yeah. Just wanted to
Pacific, right?
No, it's Pacific. You're right, but it was just I just heard you say it and I thought it was kind of funny.
From the joke.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go home and make sure I try to find these because buffalo style flavored pretzel pieces. My God, fucking good. Fucking good.
I was gonna take the cookies, but I didn't want to eat that whole bag. And if I would have brought them,
you would have ate the whole bag.
I would have ate the whole bag. Did you eat the cupcake all? The cupcake?
I'd have.
You'd have?
I'd have.
I knocked off the all the decoration and all the extra cream on the top.
All that sugar.
Yeah, I just left a little bit of that
icing
on the top, and that's all I ate.
Yeah, some dude at the show last night, his wife had a birthday, and he had a cake that was made of all cupcakes. So you just take a cupcake off the cake. And I thought it was regular cake. So I said, hey, dog, save me a slice. But he said, cupcakes, brother. He gave me a cupcake, and I had to go back in the kitchen and get a tall glass of ice milk to wash it down. And it was good. I only ate half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you sang, and then the whole audience sang happy birthday to her.
Yes. It was a good night last night.
You didn't sing happy birthday.
No. Because the nigga ordered me to.
Well, and you don't need to, I would never, I can't imagine at a time when I would sing happy birthday from the stage. I'm not Marilyn Monroe.
Even if I was I'm so vain that if I was a vocalist and I had the skills of a Jamie Foxx, then I would do it.
But it's not. It's just not what you do.
No.
But you handled really well. And we got a nice lady You got a nice lady, I should say, right in the front row
who could sing.
And
she sang it.
Yeah, she belted it out.
Yeah, buddy. Before we get heavy, couple things. You want to mention the John Morant
Yeah. Well, what I read,
I didn't know anything about it until you hit me. I remember when you initially told me about it. I was like, all right. And then you sent me the text that he got suspended for 50 games.
it looks like it's 50 games. That's the league rule.
God damn, I'm serious with that shit.
Yeah, because they said 4 games, and then I read something that's going to be 50, and I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but yeah, that's crazy.
That gun shit, they don't fuck around.
No,
I remember when Gilbert Arenas got in big trouble because he brought a gun in the locker room.
Yeah, that was basically the end of Gilbert's career, honestly. It
felt like he was on his way out anyway, though.
Well, his career, okay, let me rephrase this. His career, he might have been on the way out, but his marketing brand was still growing. He was getting all
Agent
kinds
Zero.
all kinds of commercials still.
Right.
And as soon as that happened, that was done. There was no more Gilbert Arenas on that. The NBA, we were talking about it a little bit last night about how serious like the NCAAs are, the NBA, these rules, and they're, I guess, I don't know if they're considered clubs, they're businesses, the NFL, all.
Yeah.
But what's funny, and they kind of brought something up, and I thought about it when we were talking about this. There's the collective bargaining agreements where the players bargain with the association. That's what they are. The association, the NBA, the NFL, all those associations, and they bargain. You never hear that much about any of it. You hear the final, like you can read the finals, what the rules are, but they never come out and say, well, this is what we wanted and this is all we got, or this is what we got. Like maybe some key points that they're working on. But these guys, this is some like CIA covert operative stuff that they do that, what we want, what we need. There's things going on, that they want and they're going to do. But we never hear about like the bargaining that go through. But the gun thing,
right?
It specifically says, what it is if there's guns brought into any facility, on the road, the bus, anything. So that's the issue, because for him to have it at the club, he was out of town, right?
Yeah,
he had to bring it with him. So it's an issue.
I don't want to butcher up what happened, and hopefully you know more than I do. And if you don't know at all, then fuck it. I'm about to fuck this up. So then I might have to retract everything. But wasn't the story allegedly his mother got into it with somebody? Have you heard the story?
No, I haven't heard that.
Oh, shit. What I think I heard was his mother got into it. God, I want to say it wasn't a referee. With somebody. And she basically called her son, Ja. And he came with a bunch of motherfuckers to handle the situation. And he said something to the extent, well, this guy better not be here when I get here, or whatever the story was. And I'm going to have to probably retract this because I remember hearing it once, and I think I'm destroying it. My point, though, is, listen, man, from what the little bit that I got a feel for Gilbert Arenas when I did his podcast, Gilbert Arenas doesn't come off to me. Like, it felt like Gilbert Arenas just made a stupid mistake by bringing the gun into the locker room. And when I talked to Gilbert and when I did his podcast, the vibe that I got from Gilbert was not that he's not Ja Morant. And what I'm getting to is Ja Morant is a nigga, a hood nigga. You could feel it. You could see it. There's a mentality. I didn't get that sense from Gilbert Arenas. That Gilbert just seemed like he just did some stupid shit and made a mistake. Ja is just hilarious. That's funny. Ja is a street dude. He's a hood dude. And he did hood shit. And it's like the saying goes, you could take the ghetto, you could take the person out of the ghetto. You can come back in now. The comedy timing, taking it too long. You could take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person. And that to me is who and what Ja Morant is. Ja Morant is just certain dudes in the NBA, you can tell from the way they respond, the way they act, the way they carry themselves, that they're hood dudes. Ja Morant is a hood dude. He's a street nigga. And he did street nigga shit.
I can say it a different way. And we've had this conversation on the podcast before. There's plenty of incredible ball players out there, basketball players out there. There's plenty of athletes out there that have played different sports. Right. But we're sticking with the NBA because we're talking about NBA right now. But there's plenty of people that could play in the NBA and would have been probably stars in the NBA.
Right.
But the business acumen to play in the NBA has to be there because it's a business. It's not street ball. It's not.
And I think most of the NBA players know this.
Well, saying that, there was an interview recently where they had the 4 top young players on.
Mm-hmm. In the NBA?
Yeah. And John Morant was one of them.
Yeah.
And if you watch the interview, Josh stands out like a sore. What's this? A sore thumb? That's the same. Yeah. He stands out. You can tell that he's coming from a different place. Now, is it because he's a star and he can back up his game versus some of the other people that were on there? Possibly, but there's just a difference. And I'm not knocking him. I love he's interesting. He's an interesting player. He's playing the game in a different way for his position, how he plays. I have nothing to say about that. I just hope that he can get someone that they put together, some people. I hope that the NBA doesn't. He's young. He's made some young man mistakes. We all make mistakes when we're young men. And I think that they need to hopefully get some people around him to help him and get him through this because he's an asset to the NBA. And I would love to see his life continue the way on the trajectory that he's going, as far as an NBA star, which leads to other things, other parts of your business that you can do. So I hope that works out for him. When you're talking about Gilbert Arenas, I've heard other NBA players talk about people brought guns into the locker rooms before, and this is where Arenas kind of got fucked over because he's the one that got called out for it. But they don't make these rules up unless there's a reason for the rule. So someone was doing it before. That's why the rule comes into it. No one writes a rule because it's not needed. It's not like they're imagining these things in the future. Something's going on. So that was happening before, and Gilbert got the heat of it.
John Morant feels like the second coming of Allen Iverson to me, in terms of that street savvy that he brings to the NBA. One of the most ghettoest things ever was when Allen Iverson was sitting on the bench during a game, and his mother is in back of him doing his cornrows. Like that's nigga shit. You know what I'm saying? She's literally braiding his hair as he's sitting on the bench. When have you ever seen that? And listen, one of the reasons why people praise LeBron so much is not just the talent. It's who he is off the court.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they point out, Charles Barkley in particular, is that this man came into the league at basically a teenager and has carried himself like a mature, professional adult since day one. And not a single scandal. Who else has done that's reminiscent of that? With the exception of coming in teenage years, Jordan.
Okay.
Jordan's biggest scandal ever was the gambling. Please. That man basically was scandal-free, Teflon clean his whole career. LeBron emulates that. Even Kobe got into a scandal that was pretty heavy. LeBron, like Jordan, is scandal-free, clean, the poster for what perfection is. Allen Iverson was the opposite of that. John Morant is the opposite of that.
I'm going to give LeBron more credit than I give Jordan for that because Jordan has shadows.
What do you mean?
Jordan has shadows. The gambling.
That's it. What other shadow is there? And that wasn't really a shadow, the gambling. They made that bigger than what it was because it was Jordan. And finally, it was a finally moment. Something. He's not perfect.
The women thing was
a woman thing.
Well,
with Jordan.
He got married because his wife was pregnant, and then there was going to be reported in the report. This is a little different. This is why Jordan, he didn't come up in the social media time, and Jordan got this. And this was I don't know where I read this, and I know that it's true. It's something that I read and then checked on. The reporters in Chicago. And Chicago itself, the love for Jordan. If they were going to write anything that was negative about Jordan, they would go to Jordan before.
A lot of the writers did that, not just Chicago.
Yeah.
The writers, period.
Yeah, Jordan had this level of respect that went beyond. So that was taken care of. But people, listen, it's hard for anyone to come in at a young age, especially, and then that's why I'm giving this all to LeBron on this. He came in at 19, but it has to do also with your family and understanding. Like, LeBron's family did a great job because this is 19. His mom did a great job.
Right.
But family, he had other people around him that's part of his family. I'm not
Right.
His mom knew not to be braiding cornrows behind him. Not that you can't braid cornrows, but that isn't going to give you your best look on national television. That your mom, not because it's cornrows, just because your mom is on the bench while you're on the bench supposed to be playing basketball.
It is cornrows, though. That has something to do with it.
It can. I have a different opinion
That's
about
some of the
cornrows.
most niggerish shit you could ever do.
Dude, I told you how I grew up, and I used to go to the public pool, and I thought, when they used the term king and queens, dude, when I'm sitting at the pool as a young man and I'm watching all these dudes, all these black dudes sitting at the pool, and their women, their wives, whoever is braiding cornrows in their hair.
Bitches.
I'm like, this is the cool, and I'm looking at my family and all the Hispanic families, all the white families, and they're just like I see arguments and other bullshit going on, and I see these black men just getting their hair braided. To me, cornrows took on a whole nother idea. It's not the same,
Right.
So I didn't look, but I don't know of moms that are really hanging out at the bench doing anything. So it's as much as I like Iverson, and I'm not talking about Iverson, but it might have limited some of his money that he could have made in the outside of the NBA. It's important if you want to make money outside the NBA. If you just want your check, but Iverson, I also give him credit for being. He knew that he could have tattoos. He knew that wasn't in how it was being in the bar.
No, he listen. Allen definitely started something, ushering in the era of cornrows, tattoo. I'll call it the be yourself era.
Yeah,
he just let motherfuckers know, and to a younger generation, this is our time. Be who the fuck you are.
Rules were created because of Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
So that's because he knew what the rules were.
He represented the streets.
So all I'm saying about Ja is he needs to make sure that he has people around him that get the rules and protect himself from his young self. Your young self is dangerous. All of our young selves are dangerous. But when you have millions of dollars and you could really put your young self out there, you may not get to the best part of who you are later in life.
Especially if you're still doing the shit you was doing before you got the millions of dollars.
Right. So hopefully he gets some right people around him, and they protect the young self so he can grow into what he can be.
So before I got here on the plane, I downloaded 2 things to watch. And you watched both of them already, and you told me about one of them. I watched the Pamela Anderson 2-hour documentary. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. I found myself rooting for her and Tommy Lee to get back together. I know they didn't, but as I was, from what I know they didn't, obviously. But as I was watching this and watching how many times, I never knew she was married that many times. And ultimately it ended with her being alone. And she said, if I end up alone, so be it. And for those who believe in love, and I always say I'm a romantic at heart. I got a little, damn, I was rooting, because it was obvious to me her and Tommy were soulmates. And for whatever reason, that just didn't work, or she wasn't willing to make it work, but it sounded like she wanted it to work, or she may have wanted to revisit it at some point. Where he is in his life, I don't know. But I'm saying all that to say, I dug it. I dug it. I was rooting for her.
I thought I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you this, and I don't know how you're going to feel about what I'm about to say. It made me a slightly better person, because when I watched it, what I really liked is she was the first person to give these, the sex tapes to come out, her sex tape.
Yeah.
And she was the first.
She started the trend.
Accidentally. But the woman's experience is way different than the men's. And I didn't get this until I heard her say it. Like, Tommy would go out and he was like the star. Oh, you fuck Pamela Anderson. Oh, you dick. You fucking.
You're a pimp. You're a rock star.
And she's just the hoe that he fucked. And not,
right.
But it's Pamela Anderson and they all want to fuck her. That's the difference. He gets to fuck the person that they all want to fuck, and she has to live in the body of just being that. And that has to be kind of hard. That would be hard, no matter who you are.
This is where it's unfair for women. And this is the hard, cold reality of male chauvinism in life. unless you're really savvy as a woman and you're really smart and you know how to take advantage of your own gift, the window for women is very short. Very rarely do women in show business, Hollywood, get to become a Meryl Streep, a Julia Roberts. Longevity. Like Julia Roberts and Meryl Streep to me is like Al Pacino and De Niro. They are icons. They're solidified. A lot of women come in this business and come and go, never to be heard from again. They have a moment where they're hot, they're the go-to Miss thing, and then boom, you got your walking papers. A la Rebecca De Mornay. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Is it Rebecca De Mornay?
De Mornay.
Okay, Rebecca De Mornay. She was hot for a minute. What happened? Gina Davis was hot for a minute. What happened? Michelle Pfeiffer, Melanie Griffith. There's a slew of women where there's this window. And once you get to a certain age, or if you have a bomb or two, you don't get the third and fourth and fifth chances that the men do. Or once you get older, you're out.
Maybe they wouldn't fuck Harvey Weinstein.
Well, that could be it too. But I'm saying that to say Pamela Anderson, at the height of her Pamela Andersonness, and they said it several times in the thing, she was seen as the sexual fantasy like go-to for every dude. She was that hot. But man, when after a flop, like if Barbed Wire had been $100 million movie, might be a different conversation. You know, when the age kicks in and you can start to see it, that's when that window closes. There was a moment, a telling moment where she said, Sylvester Stallone basically said to her, "You could be my number one girlfriend, my number one." And she was insulted, like, so that means you have a number two. I don't want to be in anybody's rotation. Even if I'm number one, that means you have a number two. And she said, Sly said, that's the best I can offer you. That's Hollywood. That's male chauvinism. That's suck my dick, do as I say. And it's just crazy. But that to me is where I go, and I've said this before, I would never want to be a woman. You guys have it rough. Respect to women. Y'all got to put up with a lot of bullshit. It's unfair.
I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, you can't expect me to hold a thought that long. I will say these thin eyebrows that these.
Oh, she had the Mexican eyebrows.
Those
them drawn on shits.
Those didn't hold up long term.
No.
I remember what I was going to say. Barbed Wire, if it would have even been an okay movie, do you know what I mean? That it would have made $1. All it needed to do was make $1. She would have got another movie. That movie was terrible. Do you ever see it?
Listen, I didn't have to see it. Listen, and here's the thing too. Pamela Anderson kept going, I want to be taken seriously. All women that are in entertainment want to be taken seriously as actresses. But the first step, I think, is you have to be able to act. She's not a great actress. She's no Meryl Streep. She's no Sandra, what's my girl who I love so much? Sexy with the legs.
Sandra Bullock.
She's no Sandra Bullock. She's no fucking Viola Davis or Angela Bassett. What she did on that show Baywatch, which was campy and didn't require any real depth of acting, she could play that part. But now if you're talking about deeper, more hardcore shit, I don't think she had the chops, dude. And that's why I'm saying what her biggest gift was her physical appeal. But you have a window for that.
Well, see, this is where it's tough to be a woman. And there are men that are just good-looking guys that will go up and they'll get a part because they're good-looking and they have a little bit of whatever that is, the sex appeal to get beyond screen. But it's what they're allowed to do with it. They can get a little older, they can mature, they can get better at their job, and then they still have a career.
Yeah.
Where women, I don't know if they get that same amount of time to put that together. There are women that have done it, but they're few.
Yes.
And
that's what I'm saying. There's few.
And I think older Hollywood might have been a little bit easier to do that, to survive longer, only because the ageism wasn't as as drastic as it is now.
I don't know. I think it was just as drastic, if not more so, chauvinistic and drastic. But again, you had icons in that day: Joan Crawford, Betty Davis. But you can't name a lot of them.
Lauren Hutton had a long career as being a model and an actress, and she was able to do it. There are people that have done it. It's just it's more difficult for women. I agree wholeheartedly. It's more difficult for women, and like you said, the window is different. Sean Connery, if that's a woman, a woman can't get bald and still be considered sexy.
Right.
But this is also because there's a reality to this that I have to add. Men are shallower. Men, not necessarily even in the business, the men who buy tickets, the men who go to movies, look for something different than a woman who goes to movies. Sean Connery was still considered, women called him sexy. Women said that he was sexy long. Men don't put that same onus on older women.
Right.
So it's not, I don't want to put this just on Hollywood itself. It's on all of us because we start to go, well, who's the new one? Who's the younger one? So it's us out here too. We can't blame Hollywood completely.
Right. I'm really quickly looking up.
That sexiest man?
No. Please. Yes. Sean Connery, who was regarded, especially in his early James Bond years, extremely sexy. He was the guy.
He was already older at that point.
Right. His last Bond movie, which my dad took me to see, Never Say Never Again, he was considered old for James Bond. And I'm looking at the picture, and yeah, he was considered old, and he still got to play that part as what was considered too fucking old. So, as you say, what men are allowed to do with it. Because I don't think that if that role were reversed, a woman would get the opportunity to play an existing character that defined her career past her prime.
And I go back to it, though, because women will still find Sean Connery sexy at that time.
Absolutely.
And men, it's what, I could give you one that I watched like her whole career because I think she's great. And it's, of course, as I go to say it, I forgot it. Black Widow.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sexy. Now she's getting a little older. She's not old.
Right.
She's getting a little older. I don't hear about her. Like I hear her in the Marvel series.
Right.
But where's she going? You can already see like that whole, like this, her movie roles are changing.
Yeah.
She's becoming a different, she can't, you don't play that same part. Women will find men sexy and can see them in a sexy role much longer in life than men will see women in a sexy role in life. And that isn't Hollywood. That's also who we are. So I understand that we can blame Hollywood. And yes, some of it is Hollywood because Hollywood isn't putting it out there to show some very attractive women that are still, that would be considered older for that part. And they're not using it. Maybe if that was marketed different, it could be a little different. But it's also us ourselves. The general public goes along with that. They yell at Hollywood for it, but they're part of the same organization that removes women from that.
I'm gonna steal a line from Patrice. Men, we age like wine. Women age like bread. Yeah. Second thing I watched. I finally watched it. Eddie Murphy Dolemite.
Told you it was good, man.
I did not want to like this.
Told you it was good.
But you know what I found myself doing? Rooting for the underdog. Like I knew a little bit about Rudy Ray Moore, and I remember when we talked about this specifically on the podcast. I had no idea until the movie ended and they gave you the stats. Rudy Ray Moore's movies went on to make $10 million.
Yeah, for minimal investment.
I didn't know they were that successful.
Yeah.
Holy shit. But I will say this, and listen, that's, we all root for the underdog. But the whole time I'm watching this, and he's being, listen, you got to tip your hat to him for his, what's that word? Tenacity and his persistence. because he wouldn't take no for an answer, which goes to show you that if you're willing to not take no for an answer, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. My thing was, let's not fuck around and deny the truth. The movies were bad. And I think that's part of it. Part of the reason why he couldn't get the big Sony deal or Paramount deal or whatever major movie studio push. He made bad fucking movies. Now, kudos to him that as horrible as the movies were, he still made $10 million. That's remarkable. But the whole time you're going, I'm going, man, this is fucked up. They showed the one part where he's trying to sell his movie, and you look on the list, and he writes a line through everybody that said no. Columbia Pictures, Paramount Pictures, every major studio. And you go, damn, that's fucked up. Like, that's so disheartening. Nigga, you made bad movies.
But they were good bad movies. They were good bad movies.
Cult, black exploitation movies.
Yeah, but that wasn't the black exploitation that when someone looked at his movies and go, oh, he's making $10 million a movie. If we put $100,000 into one of these movies and we got a director and a producer, maybe we could make $50 million on it.
Let me ask you a question. If any major studio went, we're going to finance a Rudy Ray Moore movie, and because we're a major studio, yes, we can supply you with the best writers. We can supply you with the best directors. But we're not going to do that. We're going to still let you make the movie you want to make. All we doing is putting up the money. Do you think that with a major studio behind his movies, advertising, marketing, those movies would have made 5 times as much money? Do you think they would have been even more successful? Because I still go, and here's what's tricky to me about that. Whoever those people were that helped make his piece of shit movies $10 million, they're still going to be there. But then I'm going, well, maybe they could make 5 times as much because maybe there's a white audience or whatever kind of audience that knows it's a bad movie, but they're going to go see it because of that. Man, you got to see this piece of shit movie. It's hilarious how bad it is.
People go to bad movies. There are people that go to bad movies. Considered the worst movie ever is Plan 9 from Outer Space. And people go to see that movie.
Over Buckaroo Banzai?
Buckaroo Banzai was not a bad movie. That's a good movie.
That was on the other day.
Did you watch it?
Not twice.
It's good.
Nah, son.
Nah, it's good. People go to see the bad movies, but it's tough because there's a sweet spot for people. He could make this bad movie, and I'm not saying he couldn't have made a good movie, but now you have a budget, a bigger budget. So where do you put that money? And then what do you do to the guys that were doing the job that wasn't good? That were holding the mics, the boom mics up, and they're in the shot or the shadows and now you got to get someone. How do you now these people are integral in making that bad movie. So you have people that come in to make a better bad movie, but then they ruin some of the effect of the bad movie, or the people that were making the movie because of who they were, connected to them, understood what Rudy wanted. They don't get those shots. So it might not be good. There's a little bridge that you have to cross over from making these bad movies to making a better movie that's marketable in a different way. I don't know that it crosses over that way. I don't know that you get it. Maybe you don't get that rawness that was in that movie.
Because even the people that turned him down initially, but then when the guy looked at the numbers and saw what it did, then they offered to go, they backtracked and said, now we want to sign you.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, money talks.
Yeah.
And as long, that's what I'm saying, like for a guy that made piece of shit movies that made 10 million, if a studio if he did this on his own or with this little distribution company, 10 million, imagine if we put what we gonna put it into it as a major studio, we could make 50 times that.
They should have bought I don't understand why I don't know how much of the movie was the reality and how much of it was the movie. So I'm not even going to comment on it because I don't know enough about it. But I just think that there's some people that are qualified to make a bad movie, and but a movie that sells and a bad movie. That doesn't mean their bad movies can translate into multi-million-dollar movies and have them, spend a lot of money and make a better movie that's going to make, like you said, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times more. I don't know. Some people are really good at a niche and they fill that. And that's what
that felt like that to me. He filled the niche at a time when, let's be honest, and we talked about this when we talked about the Mario Van Peebles thing. Hollywood wasn't looking for us. They wasn't concentrating on us. We were nothing to them. So that niche at that time needed to be filled, and Rudy, as bad as it was, filled it.
Yeah. But
once the quality movies with black people started happening, then that goes away.
Yeah, could he make a quality one? That's the question.
No, because if he could have, he would have.
No, well, it's hard to make it with no money and making it a budget and filming, getting a place that is basically you're going to get kicked out of or get torn down, and you have to get the shots in. And once that place gets torn down or they can't get back in there, now you can't go and refilm it. You can't fix anything. You're stuck with what you did that day. There's no fixing anything. I think that the question is, could he do it? Could he be bigger than a bad movie? I don't know, because the bad movie is what made him great. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I know what you're saying. But like even in that scene, the ending scene, when they go to see his latest flick, and they're in the limo and they're reading the bad reviews, and one of the reviews was talking about how you have the main superstar, this alleged sex machine that's doughy. And whenever that nigga shot himself naked, he looked like me naked, nigga. So I'm just going, he was everything. He was everything that wasn't a star.
Yeah, but okay,
and was still successful.
But the people that growing up in whatever area you grow up in, it's not always the guy that looks cut up, and it's the tough guy in your neighborhood. It is the doughy guy sometimes that is the brutal guy that's been through some shit that can fucking take on the other side.
I agree with you. I'm not even saying that can't be sellable, because I think anything that's real can be sellable. But that's not the Hollywood formula.
No, it's not the Hollywood formula.
The leading man, the sex machine, he's got a six-pack. He's lean. He's cut up. He looks good. He looks like a movie star. He's Will Smith in Bad Boys, running down the street with his shirt open.
I'll give you the movie.
He's not Ice Cube, nigga.
I'll give you the movie that I think can make my point. Blackula. Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
Blackula would have been a better bad movie than this movie that they made, because it wasn't a good movie. It wasn't like it didn't follow the Dracula, the scary, it just didn't have that scary appeal the same way.
When I was a kid, that nigga scared the shit out of me, too. I never saw Blackula again, because I saw it when I was a kid, and that nigga scared the shit out of me.
The way it was done, it just didn't have that same Vincent Price scary movie from back in those days.
It goes against the grain totally because he's black.
Okay, but
even before Vince Price, there was Bela Lugosi, who was the most famous Dracula back in the fucking the black and white days.
Vincent Price wasn't ever Dracula. He was just he was in those scary movies that were
all right.
You can't. What I'm saying is, if they would have made that one campy, if they would have had that that would have been a bigger movie. I think. When I saw it as a kid, you're right. I was a little scared of it. But as you're an adult, you're like, man. But I see Dracula movies as an adult, and I'm like, that's fucking right. That's scary.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's the one that I look at and go, that kind of was in the middle. It didn't get on both. It needed to be one or the other.
Right.
So I don't know. But Eddie Murphy's portrayal, how'd you like that?
I liked it.
I felt it was.
Listen, he's good at mimicry. We've always known this, and he was mimicking Rudy Ray Moore and those movies to the T. Now here's where I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit. We did that before Eddie Murphy on Mad TV when we did the Dolemite skits. So, and again, in terms of mimicry, and my job in those skits was to be Rudy Ray Moore, and with the rhythm and the rhyme cadence and the when he did the karate, and so yeah, Eddie was great. More than anything, and this is an ode to Eddie dramatically, he knows how to display vulnerability. He knows how to make you feel like when I felt bad for him as Rudy, as the underdog.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him.
But I felt this was like as close to Eddie Murphy, the old Eddie Murphy, the Beverly Hills Cop Eddie Murphy, the Eddie Murphy that did Raw.
I can't. Nah.
It didn't feel like
It
did not feel like Mr. whatever those fucking
Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle's. I didn't feel Dr. Doolittle.
Those to me were just horrible movies. But I
People
think,
love those movies. They made him
because they were for
wealthy.
kids. They were kids.
Yeah.
But I think closer to what you're talking about, I wouldn't say Beverly Hills Cop and all those things, was Eddie's role in Dreamgirls.
Yeah.
This to me, him as Dolemite versus him as his role in Dreamgirls felt one and the same to me.
Dreamgirls is a different kind of movie, though. That's why I didn't. But it was, but that was years ago. Also, that was.
But I'm talking about in terms of his character and what he went through and the drug addiction and not being as big as he probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he was acting. This movie,
I thought he was acting in this one too.
He was, but in this one, he got to play a little sillier character, a little bit more fun that I hadn't seen. I didn't feel that from him, and he was allowed to cuss and to be the Eddie that
raw. He was a little raw. Yeah,
that's what I was missing from it. I thought that was it was good to see him back. That's what I meant.
And Wesley was good, man.
Yeah,
I loved Wesley in this. Yeah, it was good. All right. Ready to get to the meat?
Yeah, let's go in.
All right. Before we go in, I think it's important, especially from a context standpoint, that I play this. I want to play.
Oh, before we jump off this, I just got to ask you: do you think it's fair or unfair, or where do you find that Rudy Ray Moore is like some in rap in hip hop that he's recognized somewhat as an MC, as an early idea of what the MC was?
Sure.
You think he's deserved that?
A little bit. There was a great documentary that I watched about Muhammad Ali where he was also referred to as that.
Yeah.
Because he was rhyming early. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's not far fetched.
Okay,
I'll give him that.
Okay.
So this is an old clip that's resurfaced, and I remember when I originally watched it on HBO, and it was just some sort of comic discussion between Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Louis C.K., and Ricky Gervais.
Oh, we're gonna start here.
Oh, we're in it now. Oh yeah, but we got to start here because I got to come back to this.
Okay.
All right. So
he's the blackest white guy. He's the blackest white guy I fucking know. And then all the negative things we think about black people. This fucker.
You're saying I'm a nigger.
Yes, you are the niggerest fucking white man I have ever. Amazing!
I don't think he could do that.
Oh,
what? I don't think he has those.
There's only two. You don't even understand.
Really?
You don't really know him. Like I've worked with him.
No, like your bit about. I wouldn't use it anywhere.
No, exactly. These two.
We say nigger on stage.
On stage.
You guys don't. That's an interesting two teams
that's
here.
The difference between
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We say nigger on stage. You guys don't.
But that's definitely a pairing. Who says nigger on stage? We don't.
Well, you just did.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
You and me say nigger in private.
No.
These two guys don't. I don't believe he says it in private.
I'm giving it up just because it's playing.
I don't believe it's. I don't think you've ever said it probably in your life.
No.
That's it. That's the huge difference between you and me, I think.
Well, you found the humor of it.
Yeah.
I haven't found it.
Right.
Nor do I seek it.
So this clip has risen back, obviously because Chris Rock's new special, Selective Outrage. Now I want to put a pin in what you just heard because I'm gonna refer back to it at some point. But Andy and I kind of discussed this a couple days prior to meeting up here in Syracuse. I'm bothered by that clip. And I sent a post out and I said, listen, anybody that knows me knows I'm the last person to be about censorship. Context is always important. And I will never be a hypocrite in regards to this when I say I stand behind this badge called comedy and I uphold this oath we've taken called humor. Depending on the context, and if it's funny, it is what it is. My biggest thing was for Louis C.K. is if you want to do a joke where you say the word nigger, that's fine. Whether or not you think the joke is funny, subjective. but have the balls to be able to tell that same joke in front of a crowd that doesn't look like you. Because it's much easier to tell a joke where you say nigger so freely in front of a crowd that's made up of predominantly you. My respect for you, because that's ballsy. My respect for you comes when you could take that same joke and take it to Memphis and Chuckles in Memphis. Take it to the Baltimore Comedy Factory. Take it to the Punchline in Detroit. And without changing anything, tell the same joke. That's when my respect for you,
which I did,
is earned, which you've done. And I got into an argument with one guy, and he was like, well, before I say that, let me say this. Back to what I was saying before. I know Andy has told his joke where he goes, Eric's nigga. Let me backtrack. Here's my bottom line. There's a reason why you don't see Klan rallies in the hood. And I'm just saying, have the balls to tell the joke, not just in the safety of the people that look like you. And as I got into it with this guy back and forth on Instagram, he said, I've never known a working white comedian that's ever said that word. And I said to him prior to it, hey, man, listen, you're not a comedian. You're a regular civilian. I've been doing this for 32 years. I've been everywhere. My world, my universe, my everything is comedy. So this argument that we're having might be out of your depth. Stay in your fucking lane. And that's when he said, I've never seen a white working comedian use that word. I said, George Carlin has done it. Artie Lang has done it. Andy Steinberg has done it. I forgot, but I should have said Sarah Silverman has done it. Ralphie May has done it. So the fact that you don't even know that proves my point. You're out of your fucking depth. And to Andy, I've seen him do it. Hey, I'm Eric's nigga. George Carlin. You know why Eddie Murphy and Pryor can say the word nigger? Because they're niggers. So, and I believe even though George Carlin's audience has always been mostly white, predominantly, George Carlin is a fearless motherfucker. So I would have no doubt that he would tell that in front of a black audience. He was that fearless, and he came from a time and a generation where they spoke that candidly and that honestly. So that's my whole point. I would never go, well, Louis C.K. can't. He can do whatever he wants, and he's a great talent. I'm just saying, dude, have the balls to do that in an all-black room. And to Louis' own admission, I remember he told a story when he performed at Mo Better Mondays, and he said he bombed, and that's without him saying nigga. So imagine him at Mo Better Mondays saying nigga. I've said this a number of times. Black comedians to blow up, we don't have to. White comedians to blow up and earn their stripes, they don't have to cross over to us. We got to cross over to them. A lot of top white name headlining acts, I can tell you right now, would bomb in black rooms. Some of the biggest white names in comedy would eat it in black rooms, but they don't have to do black rooms. So, and when you and I were talking, you brought up something, and you made a good point when we brought up the Artie Lang piece. When Artie Lang tells a joke, and he's telling the basketball joke, and he's getting caught up in the moment, and he says, pass the ball, nigga. That's funny to me, and it works because for a certain reason. Versus you told me what the actual joke was that Louis C.K. tells when he says the N-word. I'll say it, but tell me what the crux of the joke was.
I don't know. It's about him wanting to be able to use the word because it's a great word. It just fits. Like when he watches a barista making his coffee, he wants to use it in that aspect. But that doesn't. When he said it, it didn't.
Without saying the word, tell me what about the lemonade, and I'll fill it in.
No, it's not the lemonade. Mine was the one that I heard him do was about the coffee, making coffee.
Okay, the black guy.
Yeah,
and he said a black guy was making.
No, it wasn't a black guy. It was just a dude making coffee, and he wants to use that word because he feels the word just feels right, and so that's how he says it. I don't even know if he says black guy. I think he just said there's a guy, the barista's making the coffee.
Well, that makes even less sense to me because when you explained it to me, I thought you said it was a black guy that was making his coffee.
I don't remember the joke to be. I'm paraphrasing in a long way because I don't really remember the joke because it was an uncomfortable joke to me.
I think it's uncomfortable so much so that you're forgetting what you told me.
Because
when I talked to you yesterday, you said a black guy was making his coffee.
I don't think I said black guy.
No, you did.
Okay, maybe he did say black guy.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
All right, so let's say it was a black guy, but you did say black guy. Okay. So he goes, the black guy was made. Because now when you say it could have been any guy, that's why I'm saying to you, it makes even less sense now. So you told me that he said a black guy was making his coffee, and he basically goes, the dude was making his coffee, the coffee was so good that he was like, man, this nigga really made the shit out of this coffee.
Something, yeah, to that
extent.
Yeah.
Now, let me go back to the Artie Lang thing and Andy thing. When Artie says, pass me the ball, nigga, as he's playing basketball with these black dudes, and Andy goes, Eric's nigga, my thing is this. You know, Charles Barkley once said, when you play basketball, it don't matter if you're black, it don't matter if you're white, it don't matter your color, it don't matter your sexual orientation, whether you're gay or straight. All we care about is, can you play ball? And if you can play ball, then you're part of a family. We're a team. It's about camaraderie. There's a kinship, a brothership. Because we win together, we lose together, we travel together, we're on the road together. You become a unit. It's not about color. It's not about sexual orientations. We're a band of brothers. So, and that's what sports is. It's a family. It's a common goal, a team fighting for one goal. So when you get caught up in the culture of sports and the culture of that camaraderie and that brotherhood, you're in it. It's like you're being brought in. You go out to the waters, and the tide is so strong it pulls you deeper. You're in it, and sometimes you can get so immersed in the culture and in the moment you slip up, which is what makes Artie's joke so funny, because he's playing ball with a bunch of brothers, and you know how we talk out there in the court. We're open, we're free.
And in the joke, he sets it up where he's just hearing it over and over throughout the game.
And if you're a part of that camaraderie, maybe you got so caught up in it, you have a moment where you slip and you say that. That's funny to me because that makes sense. That conflict is what makes sense. I grew up this way. I grew up around some black people. Best friend is black. You get caught up and immersed again in the culture of what you know and your surroundings, and especially being a kid where you don't know better.
Yeah, that's the point of my joke.
Right,
he's an 11-year-old kid.
Right, and he's caught up in this world where he believes...
Finally fitting in,
and you just go, I'm Eric's nigga, which is what makes that funny. What is the association between a black guy making your coffee so good that you say nigga?
That isn't even, that's to you where your sticking point is. My sticking point is, first of all, let me just say this, because I'm not shitting on comics. And I think Louis C.K. is a fucking genius.
And I said that in caps. He's respectable talent. He's great.
So I'm not having any issue with him, but he doesn't fit. It doesn't even feel comfortable. One thing I learned a long time ago, if you're going to do a joke like that, you better look, and if there's black people in the audience, you better seem comfortable in what you're doing.
There's a reason why the saying, know your audience, exists.
And even when he's talking about it in this thing, and you heard him throw the hard R on it, you're like, he ain't part of this. He doesn't know this. He is saying it, but he's saying it because of, there's no culture connection to him in this at all. If he's saying it, if he's going to have this conversation, even use hard R's.
Yeah, to me...
And when he said it in the joke, it didn't come off as like, man, I really just wanted, because I'm there. I didn't feel he was there. I
don't see the connection between your coffee being made by a black person so good that you would want to say, this nigga. That doesn't connect to me.
Regardless of that, even when you didn't get the joke, the way that he said it didn't feel connected. And I think that
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. The word connection,
but not
There's
even
no connection to me.
But you're saying it that way. I'm just talking about how he verbalized it. The sound. It didn't have anything in it other than some white dude saying it. That's what it sounded like. A white dude saying it.
And to your point, let me say this. I think there is this amount of... Listen, I've heard so many white comedians say nowadays, even Chris Rock alluded to it in his new special, Selective Outrage. There is this thing where a certain group of white people, particularly white men, are feeling victimized. Like it's become popular to bash white men. And I think there is a small percentage of white people, white men, that are going, enough is enough. We must stand up for ourselves. And it's whether it's Bill Burr on Saturday Night Live talking about how white women basically hijacked the woke movement, or whether it was Chris Rock, how he alluded to it in his special. It's like, How dare we not be allowed to be who we want to be and say what we want to say? And I think there are certain white comedians who go, I'm either cool enough, daring enough, dangerous enough where I can say it. I'm going to say nigga because fuck that. I'm who I am. And if I can say it as a white man and push that envelope and go down that road, yeah, dun, 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 like I'm a bad motherfucker.
There's only one ingredient missing from everything that you just said from the white guy who wants to say that.
Melanin.
Funny enough.
Okay.
But
people will always say that's subjective.
It is subjective, but because, okay, a black guy saying on stage doesn't have to be funny because it just works.
And it's ours.
So do you know how much funnier that joke has to be coming from a white dude to make it funny?
Well, I said in my post, again, not saying you can't tell a joke, not saying it ain't funny, even though funny is subjective, but it better be good. If you're going to have the balls, especially, and that was my point. If you tell that joke in the safety of an audience that looks like you, there's no risk factor. But if you tell that joke in front of all black people, now we talking. Because that means in order for you to pull that off, that motherfucker better be right.
But all that being said, this wasn't an audience. This was 4 guys talking about comedy.
But Louis says he says it on stage.
Yeah, I know that. But here's the thing about this moment that they're all talking about. And then I read a lot of the comments. People came after Chris and they're saying this and this. I get why you would feel that way. And I get why people said, hey, now I have more respect for Jerry Seinfeld than I ever had.
And how telling is it that the guy who has a problem with it wasn't Chris? It was the Jewish white guy. And my thing was this, and I'm sorry, I'll just say this.
No, gotcha.
My thing was this. Would Ricky Gervais and Chris Rock and Louis C.K. be as freely to make Holocaust jokes or use derogatory Jewish terms in Jerry's presence?
Yeah, I think Richie Gervais would, without a doubt. He would. I would. But here's my issue with what was taken apart there, and from what you said, because what you said and what the comments were completely different. If you're going to do this joke on stage, have the fucking balls to do it in a black room. Or in a room which is predominantly black, and like you did, and I like that you used the Baltimore Comedy Factory. That was a great one, because that's the room,
right?
And to me, that one, Memphis is different. Memphis chuckles, man. I don't know. Me just being there didn't work, but Baltimore, I always did well at Baltimore. I had a good time at the Baltimore Comedy Factory. I always had. I'm not saying everybody loved me, but I'm saying the shows overall, I had good shows. So I have love for the Baltimore Comedy Factory. But what I'm saying is in this room that the conversation was happening. I understand what your point is, but the conversation was happening is what they were commenting on. And here's my comment on this, because I always like to try to come up with a different perspective just to make it throw the wrinkle in. While they're having this conversation, there's a few things going on. And yes, I love Jerry Seinfeld's what he said, but here's the other part of it, and this is straight from Dave Chappelle when he's talking about Kramer, Michael Richards, saying that first he was like, "Dang, what this mother," and then he's like, "But he's also a comic." That was and his comic sensibilities is also kicked in too. That's Chappelle's joke when he's talking about it. So going back to this, we're talking about this might have been recorded. But this is 4 comics sitting in a room talking about comedy. And Chris's point when he was starting it was about how different Louis is from the rest of the people, the other 2 guys in the room. That he sat there and he relates more to Louis as a person and then their comedy. And that's what this was. And I think that this is the danger, that can be the danger of peeking into a comics layer. Did I say it right? Layer, their meeting points, and it's not about race like you're talking about Artie's joke. It's about comedy, and they're discussing comedy because when Ricky Gervais, who's they said doesn't use the word, but then repeated the word, then everybody brings up like, well, Ricky said it, but he wasn't saying. He was saying it, and I'm not anybody can come at me with whatever you want to say about this, but if he said it. and it's 4 guys in a room, and the guy said it, and he wasn't using it, but he goes, I would never say, and then say it because he's saying, I wouldn't use this. He could have said, I wouldn't use that word. He used it saying, I wouldn't use that word. It's 4 comics in a room talking about comedy. And I've never been around comics, and this is different, though, because I've heard other black comics talking about this. Black comics that aren't around white comics, and this is actually, this was the best. What's the comedy thing that Pierre does?
Pierre.
The comic Pierre.
Oh shit.
Comedy hype. Comedy hype. The best comedy.
The Panic Room.
The best comedy hype interview that I've seen on screen. He did a really good job talking about it. And what they were talking about is, though, why that to black comics that don't work white rooms or around white comics, it's completely foreign. It's completely foreign because they would never have that conversation around their white comic compatriots because they don't hang out with them like that. We're talking about comics that hang out together, talking about comedy, that are comfortable with each other, and they're talking about all kinds of. We talk about dead babies. Come on, man. We talk about the most horrible stuff in the world together. So that scene with 4 people talking about comedy, some of the top comics in the world. Now, Jerry Seinfeld's take is awesome when he says, I don't find the, but he also said that Louis C.K. found the humor in it. I haven't, and nor do I seek it. So he's not trying to find it. That's not his area.
I don't see Eddie Griffin or Cat Williams or even Dave Chappelle sitting in that room allowing that to happen. I think there's a rebuttal of some sort, even in a comedic fashion, that goes against that.
I agree with you. I think I think that was what was missing from the room is some rebuttal.
It felt like, to me, and listen, man, and this is why I'm saying, as far as that clip you heard and what we're talking about, I'm going to put a pin in that because I'm going to go back to it to prove my point. I just don't want to do it until we talk about the Chris Rock thing. I'm just simply saying that if it feels like, listen, man, again, I don't know because I'm not part of the Hollywood elite. I'm not an A-lister, as they say. I'm not one of. I don't have access to the club, to Studio 54. But it feels like when you get to a certain level, an upper echelon in this business, when you attain a certain amount of success, a certain amount of access, I think it fucks with you. And I think because you want to be accepted by your peers, respected, accepted. Maybe give me a couple of steps there, Spider. You do a couple of steps and you change up a little bit. And I just, to me, it felt uncomfortable to have a single black man sitting there amongst 3 white comics, not counting Jerry because he said he was against it. And believe me, this is a painful, hard thing for me to say because it makes me feel like I'm being a hypocrite and I'm going against the very grain of what we as comedians are supposed to stand for. But at the same time, as a black man to a degree, I have to stand for something. And that didn't feel right to me.
I understand what you're saying, but it's still a room with 4 comics talking in a room that is a semi-private conversation, but being recorded.
It's on HBO.
Yeah,
in front of millions
no,
to see.
that's what I'm saying. But but to get that conversation to work, it has to be real. It can't be like I'm having this conversation in private. So now we know what. That's what the conversation would sound like to me. I honestly, though, I've never been in a room where I've discussed it like that around a bunch of white people
where you're outnumbered.
But I'll tell you what, I had an honest discussion with Earthquake about it when I did that joke on an Earthquake show. An Earthquake, he said, do you do that? I'll tell you exactly what he said to me. Do you do that joke? How often do you do that joke? I go, I don't do it that often because I only do it.
But Earthquake saw the joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Earthquake said, I don't do it because he heard my tentativeness in it. And he goes, how often do you do that joke? And I go, not very often. I don't like to do it unless it's a predominantly black room. And he goes, fuck that. He goes, you got to do that joke. That's a good joke. You do that joke in front of everyone. He goes, don't try to find your audience. Let your audience find you. That's what he told me.
Dude, unless my comedic muscles are completely wrong, he told you what I'm telling you, which is why most black people laugh at your joke. They understand in context where you are coming from.
Right.
I'm telling you, my comedic gut tells me if Louis C.K. tells that joke in an all-black crowd, and that joke's flow is exactly that, this coffee's so good, this nigga, it makes some good coffee. I don't see where black people go, we find the humor in that. Where's the connection? Where's the connection saying that word based on that context?
I'm just saying this because I want to make sure that I clarify this. I'm not sure that it was that he's saying a black guy.
Okay, but my point to you, Andy, even if it wasn't a black guy,
I know.
It makes even less sense.
I just want to make sure that I said that.
But if it's a black guy, I'm telling you, I don't see the connection. If it's a white guy or any other guy, I really don't see the connection.
If it's a white guy, then it's just about using the word because you want to use the word.
There
because
we go.
It fits because he feels it fits a certain sound. Like fuck fits a certain sound. And that's what I think he was trying to make it, that it's a sound that makes that word work. I don't know. I didn't think it came across well. I tell you, I think he's a genius. I think he missed on
Dude, the same way I go, and you know me, I'm championing my own shit. I say black people as a race, we're very conservative, excuse me. The joke when I do the prostate, and I know there are black men who are immediately turned off because I'm talking about a man's finger in your ass during a medical procedure. I know the joke is funny. I call the elephant in the room and call the black men out for not laughing about it because I know it comes from a place of homophobia. But when Louis C.K. has said on stage, he's made jokes about sucking another man's dick. Even Richard Pryor said, "Which I ain't never sucked a dick." That's a hard sell to black audiences, particularly black men. So that him saying nigga like that in that context, that's under the same umbrella. That's going to be a hard sell to a black room unless it's that fucking good.
Yeah, I'm not denying. I think we're saying the same things. I'm just taking a different take on the four comedians sitting in the room together. I think if Dave Chappelle was there, maybe he would have checked him in a way that was different, but he would have kept the comedy part alive in it. And it would have been like, hey, I don't know how he would have done it. I don't know what he would have done, to be honest, but I think there might have been a difference. All I know is that if it's four comedians, here's my point. When I wrote the joke initially, I wrote it before I ever met you. I wasn't trying to write for you. I still don't write with jokes for your audience to be on the road with you, much to some people's disappointment when they come to see me perform. But what I'm saying is I had to go to black dudes and go, listen, here's the joke, and discuss it openly with other black comics and go, this is the joke. And you got to hear. And it was rough. It wasn't perfected in the beginning. And so if they would have filmed
you had
me,
to take a couple ass whoopings on the way.
If someone would have recorded me talking about it, there would have been me talking to another black dude about this particular joke and how it goes. And I've lost. I'll be honest, and this is where I get why it's complicated to me. I think the joke is worth telling for reasons that I can explain later if I need to. But on this, but I don't tell it right now. But I've lost friends with it from this joke. I've had another black comedian that really we got along really well, and I don't think he knew the joke, and I did it on stage once, and he was like, "What would you think? Do that joke if my mom was in the room?" I go, "Well, damn, I hope she would laugh at it." I mean, because that's the point of the joke.
Right.
And he goes, I wouldn't want my mom in the room when you did that joke. And he was pissed. I don't know. We get along fine now. I don't think he's mad now, but I've lost a friend for that joke. That it was a close friend, and they just didn't like it. Tim, one of my best friends in the whole world, and I told you, Tim never seen me do the joke. He knew about it, but he never seen me do it. And when he came out,
you never saw.
And when
I love when a black man can correct a white man's grammar.
You can correct me all day.
English.
I'm an easy target, dude.
Okay, go ahead.
But when you were there when he came out, and I said, all right. And you were there when Tim came, and I had to look at him and basically hand in hand and go, what did you think? All right, was it all right? Because Tim doesn't play that. He doesn't think it's funny. He doesn't like it.
Listen, we thank you for giving us the respect that we don't owe you, or that we don't have to give you. You don't need anybody's permission to do what you want to do. The fact that you're sensitive enough about the issue and you're respectful about it, thank you. But you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
But I also have friends that that this isn't their life. And so and my respect for certain people in my life is more important than a joke or a word even. So I take that into consideration. But people have to understand though, I don't write. I had rules when I was writing. I know you know this, but my rule was don't ever write for the city that you grow up in. This is my comedy rules. Don't, as a comic, when they say, do you have any advice? Don't write you can write in the beginning so that you can learn how to tell a joke. Don't write jokes for your city unless you plan on doing comedy only in your city for the rest of your fucking life. Don't write jokes for your city. Figure out how to take that joke that you wrote that is about your city and make it apply to all cities. Figure out your wording so that you can get that in. And if you can't do a joke in front of everybody, then get rid of the fucking joke. And those are my two rules. Those are my two biggest rules that I started out with. I wanted to be able to tell my jokes in front of every room. And if they don't get me, that's fine. But I'm not gonna not do it. If I didn't feel that joke worked in Baltimore, then I don't do the joke.
Yeah. Just when we thought we were out, they pull us back in. It's a year ago, we thought this subject was dead, but Chris brought it back to life. Here we go. Dude, I don't understand why Tony Rock doesn't get the push he deserves. And again, I've said this a million times. I respect Chris. Chris is one of the most brilliant comedians that's ever done comedy. He's certainly he's certainly one of the greatest comedians of this generation. But Tony Rock is funnier to me. And just because when I say he don't make me laugh doesn't mean I'm not saying he's funny. It's just not my cup of tea.
I would like to say something, but from a white guy, it's not going to come across right.
Go on, take a chance.
It's not going to come. I can try to say it, but it's not going to come across right.
Don't worry, I've already sized up the left side of your face. Then I'm going to hit you in. But go ahead.
Because Chris is a black man.
As is Tony.
Tony's a black man. Like culturally, the way he vibes on stage, his difference comes across differently to a black audience.
Black is a little deeper.
His culture is a little thicker. It feels more connected than where
Chris is pretty damn connected.
He is, but Tony just has this swag that's different than Chris's.
Right.
Tony, I've never hung out with Chris, but I like hanging out with Tony. I've only hung out with him in green rooms, and he was just the coolest fucking dude. Like you know when someone's cool. Charlie Murphy was cool. Chris doesn't ooze that kind of cool.
You brought up Charlie Murphy in comparison to Eddie, or
no? When I bring in Charlie Murphy, there's a coolness to people. Like there's just a coolness. There's a vibe that they have.
Right.
Tony, Charlie, there's just this. I would say that Charlie stands. The reason I brought Charlie up is there's just some people that walk in a room and have an energy that's.
Charlie's energy was, nigga, give me your wallet.
JB Smooth has this different kind of weird energy.
Right.
But he still has that. There's something there's something different about Chris. And Chris, I'm going to say maybe because of the way Chris grew up, and and Chris talked about it a little bit. He's not a very strong person. You know, no, I don't want to say that. I didn't mean strong person. I meant physically strong person.
Right.
We know that he has his little hand things.
Right.
He grew up just a little meeker, maybe, and maybe that comes through in a different way.
Right.
So you see him physically a little different, and I shouldn't say that. I'm in no way do I mean as a white guy saying this. This is fucking feels so weird. No way am I trying to say Chris isn't black. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying there's a different kind of connection that certain comics bring out on stage in their vibe, their movements. Chris walks across the stage a lot, but Chris is more preacher walking across the stage. Tony is cool dude walking on the stage. Tony has...
Yeah, like I said, man, listen. Again, because it almost sounds like I don't want nobody to misconstrue this as somehow...
You don't want to be misconstrued.
Listen, I don't want people to think that I'm saying Chris is not funny. Chris is funny.
Chris is funny. He's one of the funniest of our generation.
He's one of the best. He just don't do it for me, dude. But like when I watch Dave and Patrice from Hello to Goodnight, they hit on all cylinders for me. Shit, everything they say. So when they drop gems, from an intellectual standpoint, from my gut hurt standpoint. Them motherfuckers just are on all cylinders. Chris does not do that.
I have it. I have the way to explain what I'm saying in my head so that I can say it so that no one can misconstrue what I'm saying.
Well, then you might have to lend it to me.
Chris is Martin Luther King.
Tony's Malcolm X.
Thank you. I finally got it out.
You know what? And they both are needed and serve the same purpose, which is to make us laugh. And they are both successful in their own right. But some people are pro Dr. King and some people are Malcolm X. And okay, there it is.
That's the best way I could say it. From a white guy trying to explain something black, that's the best way that I could say it. If you don't get it, it's because you didn't want the longer speech and the feel good. You just want the
right.
That's the difference.
Right. Yes. Yeah, man.
But I love both of them. But man, Tony
like I sit and watch
different.
Chris and I just go, smart man, fucking genius. Wow, I got it. But as far as like, oh my God, laugh, gut shit, nah. And listen, man, to each his own. You know, Morris said that when he brought up Attell. He was like, just not your cup of tea. You know, you live and die by Attell.
Dude.
I just don't,
one of the funniest people in the world to me.
Okay.
I have a lot of superstars, comedians in my head though. Like I love comedy. So it's and I don't, and by the names of the comics that I love, I don't have a particular form of comedy that makes me the happiest.
Right.
Funny's funny to me.
All right, now let me listen. And the whole time I'm watching this, and I'm not sure if everybody's intent was this, because if you enjoy comedy, or you particularly enjoy Chris, you enjoyed it from the moment he hit the stage. The whole time I'm watching it, I feel like I'm watching the Titanic. Let's get to the iceberg. Like, let's get to the Will Smith shit.
But I think that's everybody felt that way. That's why they're like, and then the headlines. Chris finally addresses, so everybody's waiting for that. And I think that I like what your point was. You made a great point about the smartness of Chris's comedy. He saved that to the end.
Yeah.
But I think that because everybody's waiting for it, it overshadowed, I thought, what was an excellent show before that.
What was a good show to me?
A good show. Okay, I'll go with good. It wasn't his best.
Right. And listen, man, this is the part where I go, okay, now I want to go back to where I said I'm going to put a pin in it. First of all, before I get to that, let me just say, I was shocked and I posted when Chris called Jada a bitch. This bitch. And when he really let loose. And a lot of people in the comments, and of course this was trending all over social media, was like, he shouldn't have called Jada the B word. It was disrespectful to call a black woman out of her name. And I meant, and my whole thing was, you mean it was disrespectful for him to address the woman that split the fuse? Because again, not like we haven't talked about this to nausea, but Will laughed at the joke at first. You laughed. If he was mad from the beginning, that's one thing, but you laughed and then you flipped script when your woman gave you the side eye. Nah, dog, we can't give you that. You laughed. So you're a hypocrite. And I feel like, this man assaulted Chris on national television. He broke the law. Chris has family, friends, kids too. He had to hear the jokes. I'm sure he was embarrassed. They were embarrassed for him. And to be able to, and this is where I tip my hat to Chris, because he could have came right out, guns blazing, after, and I think he performed in Boston shortly after the slap happened.
Yeah, the next day.
The next day or something, and he wouldn't address it. So he decided to marinate, let it simmer, strategically wait and release this special 1 week prior to this year's Oscars. And he got paid $40 million. Bravo, nigga. He played chess, not checkers. What a smart move. Because I think instinctively, I would have been so embarrassed or so mad, I would have wanted to have a special tomorrow. Let me dress this nigga. But to let this marinate for a whole year, then strategically 1 week before the Oscars, you come out with this talking about your moment, and you got 40 mil? Man, congrats, nigga.
Well, I think like 3 months after it happened, they probably went $10 million. And he went, nah. Then they went 6 months after, $20 million. He went, nah. Then 9 months after, $30 million. Nah. Then they went a year, $40 million. All right.
Let's do it. $40 million. $40 million. I think that's the best I've ever come close to Chris.
But that's smart. That's smart, and that's why Chris is can have a yacht,
right?
And
if he doesn't already,
and you will have anger because you would have addressed it the next day,
right? You know, and this is where I want to get back to this now. Chris's mic drop moment, where he goes, you know, people ask me why I didn't retaliate right away. And that's because my parents told me never fight in front of white people. And he always slams the mic down, but he chucked that motherfucker. Yeah. He put some extra spice on the mic throw down.
He slapped the mic.
Right. I want to make sure I say this right.
I know where you're going already, but everybody knows where you're going right now.
I don't know if they do. Sometimes I think my people, black people, who I love to death, we can't see the forest beyond the trees. Because again, they go, he should have retaliated immediately. He should have did this. He should have did that. And I'm just sitting here going, just because, and I said in my own situation with the Corey Holcomb 5150 thing, just because you don't do nothing right away don't mean you don't do nothing. But there's a strategy sometimes. And it's like, listen, the Oscars, that night particular, and I've said this, it was the first time and this is Hollywood's biggest and most prestigious night. This was the first time that the Oscars was ever produced by an all-black production company led by Will Packer, big-time black Hollywood producer. He produced Ride Along with Kevin Hart and Ice Cube. He produced a movie that shot Kevin into stardom, Think Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, Think Like a Lady, Act Like a Man. He produced Girls Trip, which launched Tiffany Haddish into stardom. I didn't even know. I was hanging out with my youngest daughter last week. I was like, what you want to watch, SpongeBob or blah, blah, blah? I forget the name of the show, but she said some show about a teenage black girl, black family that's on Netflix. So I turned to this show. I wish I could remember the name. But I turned to this show, and in the credits, produced by Will Packer. Head writer, David Arnold, God rest his soul, the comedian that just passed. So Will Packer is a big fucking deal. I call it the Packer factor. So there's that. Then on top of that, you had the fact that 2 of the 3 female hosts for that year's Oscars were 2 black women, Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall. So add that to the mix. Then you had the fact that, you know, it was said that Will Smith is going to be nominated for King Richard, Best Actor in a Leading Role. And of all the nominations, I think Best Picture and Lead Actor are the top 2. That's the one that people ooh and ah over. And even though we didn't know Will was going to win, wink, wink, the word was circulating, it's going to be Will. So then there's that. Then there's the fact that Sam Jackson, who's been in the business since forever, who's never won an award, won an award. And it was presented to him by whom? The greatest black actor of our generation, Denzel Washington. So when you look at all of that in totality, Will Packer and the first black production company to produce Hollywood's most prestigious and important night. 2 of the 3 female hosts were African-American. Sam Jackson won an award presented to him by Denzel. Most likely Will Smith as Best Actor. That is Hollywood. That is our moment in terms of black excellence. So if Chris Rock responds the way street niggas think he should respond, that whole moment gets tainted. And for those white people, and believe me, they exist, who live to go, told you, see? If that award show becomes the Source Awards, we will never get an opportunity like that again. And then that will also feed into the stereotype. They don't know how to act. You give black people shit and look what they do with it. They don't know how to act. So this is where I go. Sometimes my people can't see the forest beyond the trees. Y'all care so much about some shit that was so trivial that y'all go, he should have done this. And then what in terms of the bigger picture? Stain black excellence? Stain that whole moment for that?
Lose $40 million?
Come on, man. Chris, I applaud Chris for not retaliating. I really do, because that took real strength.
And that's, I love how you just, it took real strength, because the easy part would have been
to retaliate,
and they would
destroy the whole thing.
They would have went to commercial, and then whatever would have happened would have happened.
Look at these niggas. Cut to commercial. They'd have probably said that in the sound booth. Look at these niggas. Cut to commercial.
Not Jerry. It would have been Ricky Gervais.
Right. And Louis C.K. in the control booth.
And Chris. And Chris.
Right.
Jerry. Okay.
But now let me get back to Chris. Here's my problem, though. Because I'm trying to go, well, Chris, you're confusing me. You go, my parents told me not to fight in front of white people. And I get what he's saying, but here's where sometimes black people kill me. They go, I remember one girl said in a review on TikTok, why do we need, what you mean don't fight in front of white people? Like, we need white people's validation. Like, we need their acceptance. Fuck white people. And again, that's why I go, the forest beyond the trees. It ain't about white people's validation. It ain't about their acceptance. It's about, let's not ruin our moment.
It's about black excellence.
Black excellence. But what confuses me about Chris is you're saying don't fight in front of white people, but you okay with white folks saying nigga so comfortably around you. So which is it, Chris?
Was it white?
Is it about black dignity and pride and let's not fight in front of white people, but you so casually and comfortable allow white people, and you're validating Louis C.K. saying nigger in front of you?
Is it about white people or is it about comics? Because I'm saying that's what I'm asking about Chris. Not my opinion in this. Was Chris looking at it as white people, or was he looking at 4 comics in a room talking about comedy? Because if it's 4 comics in a room talking about comedy, it's a word. It's not, but Louis made it something different than a word though too. So this is where the layer of the conversation could be really taken to a deeper level. But I see it as he thought there was 4 comics in a room and he was talking to 4 comics. But that's easy for me to see it.
I like you said, when you read the comments, like a lot of the comments, felt uncomfortable with it.
I felt uncomfortable with it, but I had to take a look at what has been said, what comedy is, how we've talked about comedy, what comedy is, and when you're at the top of the level, and we're talking about, this isn't like 4 regular comics in a room. We're talking about the upper echelon of comedy at that moment. 4 of the top comics talking about comedy. Did it have anything to do with race? It always has something to do with race. But at that moment when that was going on, did it look like race, or did it look like 4 comics at the top of their game having a conversation?
You know, dude, I listen, the fact that Seinfeld had a problem with it, and more importantly, what he said, I don't find the humor in it, nor do I seek it. Maybe if Seinfeld wasn't there, I could go, all right, a comic in the room with other comics talking about comedy in a word. But the fact that Seinfeld had a problem with it and Chris didn't, I don't know. That just spoke to me a certain kind of way.
I'm not disagreeing with that. And I understand, because 2 things. One, the way that it's being talked about, because we're talking about Louis C.K. and Chris is saying he's different. He's the blackest. So it had race in it because of that. That's where it had race in it.
I would like to know, seriously, from Chris, when you go, you don't understand, he's the blackest. Like, that's like how black people used to associate Clinton with being the first black president. And why was that? Because he played saxophone and he had side pussy. Because that's what niggas do. We cool, we play sax, and we fuck other women outside our marriage. That's the association, hence joke. That's why Bill Clinton is the first black president. Not because, like Obama, he was highly educated, went to Harvard, or because he didn't cheat on his wife. He was scandal-free. He was actually there for his family and his kids. No, Clinton wasn't associated as being the first black man based on those positive
Excellence.
images.
The excellence.
The excellence. He was portrayed as a black man because motherfucker played sax and he had side pussy and cheated on his woman. So I want to know from Chris, what qualifies Louis C.K. as the blackest nigga ever?
Well,
Based on what? A man who's also part Mexican, but has adamantly, openly said in so many words, he don't identify as Mexican.
well, he wasn't raised in Mexico. He was raised in a white. He was raised as a white dude.
Okay, but so that because you were raised that way, you deny who you are also?
No, you don't deny who you are. But as I say, I don't walk through this world as a Mexican, so I don't go. I wouldn't stand up and go, "Yeah, I
gotta be honest with you, Andy. There are times on this podcast where you go back and forth between identifying as a white dude, and then there are times where you say you identify as Mexican.
No. I don't identify as Mexican because I don't get to be Mexican. I don't get to be Don't
you get to be whoever you want to be?
You okay? Let's rephrase this thing.
If Rachel Doza can be a black bitch, then you can be a Mexican.
But she can't be.
I'm being funny.
But she can't. And that's the point, though. What I'm saying is how I feel like with my family, what I know from my house, how I was raised, being with my mom, the importance of her heritage to her. Yeah, I feel all those Hispanic Mexican traits that are in my house. But when I walk down the street, I'm not seen as Mexican. So there is this duality to try to work through this where you are. Am I supposed to say like some of my relatives look very Hispanic, very Mexican. They deal with things that I never had to deal with. And I'm going to say that I understand. I don't. I didn't have to go through that. So when I have these two things that I talk about, my history, my past, my upbringing, my mom, who I am as a person, all has that Mexican heritage in it. But when I walk down the street, I don't feel the heaviness or the weight that came with that. So how am I supposed to, that's the duality. How do I walk with that? That's why you said, you got to be honest. I go back and forth. I don't go back and forth. I'm seen as one, but I know where I came from. So I don't know. I appreciate the problems. I understand what my mom went through. I didn't get it. When my mom talks about racism, and I got to be honest, I go, I didn't feel that. So how do I relate to 100% of that? I don't. But I would be an asshole to sit up here and go, yeah, man, this Mexican shit, this. I didn't get that. It didn't happen to me that way. So I can't have love from my past and my history, but be honest about the way that I walk down the street. No one looks at Louis C.K. and sees a Mexican.
No one looks at you and sees a Mexican.
That's what I'm saying. That's how we walk through this. I don't know how he feels about his heritage. I don't know how he feels about the people.
I don't either, but my gut, my spidey sense tells me he doesn't care. He identifies as white, and that's what he's going to be. He don't give two fucks about the Mexican side of himself. I don't know that for sure, but that's what my spider sense is telling me.
Well, you're going to have to go with your spider senses because I don't know how he feels. I know the difficulty of not looking like your history and not having and the difficulty the difficulty of it in trying to relate to that when you don't have the same experience that the people who do look like it have to go through. There is a difficulty. Their difficulty's worse because they have to go through the problems. My difficulty is how do I relate to the people that are part of my family that I don't even have the same. I didn't get the same feelings that they have. I don't have the same conditions that they have. There is a complication to it. It sounds minimal, but to even figure out where you fit in is very different. I'd be honest. My Mexican side of the family, they didn't embrace this white looking kid. So how do I relate?
They may not have embraced the white-looking kid, but the world embraces the white-looking kid.
But that's why I say I relate to being white because the world...
Isn't it better?
It's easier. I can tell you for 100% it's easier.
Isn't easier better?
You know, I miss things, though. There's things that I don't like about it, but there's things that I miss there's things in my Hispanic life, my mom, the family... My dad, the Jewish dad, he loved the Mexican culture. He loved the family because he didn't have that with his family. Their family was raised different, but my dad's family was different. The rest of the family isn't always that same way. But he recognized that the family lifestyle of the Hispanic family, and he loved that. That's one of the things that's why he was with another Hispanic woman and was with her and had another kid with him. So that's my dad. I can't call something that I don't have the same issues that side of my family has.
Here's where I'm going to show what is called growth. Andy and I watched another special, Black Guy.
Well, you want to give us some? Well, you don't have to finish the other one. Okay.
I'm done with that. I'm done with it.
Well, you don't want to say? Did you like the special? Did you like what he did?
You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being on some Dave Chappelle. I said my two favorite. Let me say three. My three favorite Dave Chappelle specials, and this is prior to, before he got the big Netflix deal to do what was supposed to be 3, he ended up doing 6, right?
I don't know.
Closure, Sticks and Stones. He did Equanimity. He did the one in Dallas, the one in LA, and the one in the Belly Room. So that's 4, right? And then he did Sticks and Stones and Closer.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Killing Them Softly, the first one on HBO. It's just fucking delirious type classic. And my other two favorite, which I love to death, Equanimity, which I think is my favorite, and Closer. Chris's special to me isn't on par with those 3. On a scale of 1 to 10, those 3 by Dave are all 10s. This one was, dude, I'm gonna tell you, even the one that's hailed as Chris's greatest special ever, the one that blew him up. I love black people. I hate niggas. Blacker, bigger and blacker. That was like a 6 to me.
It was great.
It's the one that blew him up, that changed his life.
Did the one before that even? I thought the one before.
Bring the Pain.
Bring the Pain.
Okay. I think Bring the Pain was the one we had the background that said, well, I can't remember. It was Bring the Pain and Black Round. Oh, it was Bring the Pain. That was I love
CR logo.
CR.
Yeah.
I love black people. I hate niggas. Bring the Pain and Blacker and Bigger and Blacker, or Blacker and Deafer, whichever one. I think was the one he did at the Apollo when he had the all patent leather outfit on. But either way,
you know, this goes back to my analogy though about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, because Malcolm X. Well, Martin Luther King would call out black people, be more excellent, be like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And Malcolm didn't give a fuck about being more. You deserve better.
Right.
That's I'm just listening to because one of the big critiques that I was listening to when I was reading it is that Chris speaks out about what he considers or what he would say was like do better. Like I love black people, but this particular group here needs to do better.
Right.
And if you're perceived as having a wider audience, that now you're calling out black people in front of white people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Chris's problem. That's what I saw was Chris's issue in this, in everything that I'm reading. People are mad to the point where they're like saying, well, Will Smith was right for slapping Chris.
Right.
So that is right.
Right. Based on the fact that he allowed Louis C.K. and Ricky to say that, Will was right for slapping Chris.
And calling
and he
out,
should get slapped again.
And saying it like, well, I love black people, but there's certain groups of black people that I don't like. That is calling out black people in front of white people. That's that
joke?
That some people perceive it that way because he always talks.
Oh, no, I never perceived that way. I thought that joke was brilliant.
It's a brilliant joke.
It's a brilliant joke.
But if you say that in front of a white audience,
it's based in truth, hardcore truth.
Oh yeah, but the truth is the reality that some people don't want talked about in front of white people.
Well, listen, those are the same select few who might go, "I'm offended, Andy, at your Eric's nigga joke." You're gonna always have that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
I'm not talking about the select few, but to me, that joke, "I love black people, I hate niggas," is very different from that moment with Ricky and Jerry.
Yes, it is different.
That's very different.
But he was already. They've said that about him for a while. I mean, when I watched that thing on Comedy Hype, that was some of it, that he has a white audience and he shouldn't be doing just because white people enjoy him, they don't like him.
Listen, this is where I'm going, and I'm saying this again from lack of experience. I don't know, because I'm not at that upper echelon. But I have a feeling that when you become so successful and so wealthy, there's a great saying in boxing where they go, it's hard to stay hungry when you're sleeping in silk shorts.
Yeah.
And I think when you get to a certain point where you're making so much money, you have so much access, you're in the Mile High Club, your constituents and your peers, you're in that group of motherfuckers with yachts, and you can vacation in Turks and Caicos, and you sit in courtside at the Knicks game and the players are tripping over your feet. Once you taste that, you go, I don't ever want to go back to what was. So maybe you do a little bit more than you should. Maybe you give me a couple of steps there, Spider. Maybe you're putting some extra tap in your movement because you're at that level now where you just don't want to go back. And you might feel like you gotta, let me stop beating around the bush. White acceptance. You're being accepted. You're getting access into some shit that is so fucking grand and amazing. You lose yourself a little bit. You lose who you are, and you start whole time gal.
But do you think Chris done that? Chris never had.
Listen, I don't want to say that he's done that. I just think sometimes you get lost in the sauce. You just get lost in the sauce.
I disagree. I disagree. I don't, and I don't have a reason that I can disagree, because for me to be able to say that to you is bullshit, because how do I know? But I'll tell you this. Success brings out more white people, because to pay for expensive here, and this is a great point. Where was this? Where did he do this special? In Baltimore. Baltimore is a black city. Black people have money in Baltimore. Black people pack that fucking show out. If you did this in LA, that would have been 50% black and 50% white.
Maybe. Depends on where. Lil Rel Holloway did his special at a gym, high school gym in Crenshaw.
Okay. No.
All black people.
Well, it's different. It is different, though. You know, Chris is bigger than that.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm just saying, if Chris wanted to, well, I'm going to say if Chris could have gone to the ghettoest ghetto in Atlanta or Baltimore, and white people probably still would have showed up. Yeah, I guess you're right. You could be right.
There's when you talk about white acceptance, where's Chris' big movie? Because white people came out to support that movie. Black people didn't support it because they were corny movies.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation that I could get into things about that, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Not all of them were corny. There were some that should have done better.
Andy, this is where this fine line is, where I am trying so hard to grow, because I could give my honest answer.
Yeah.
Or I can give the growth
You don't
answer.
even have to give the answer, because the dollars and the people that supported it already speak for it. So you don't have to put extra on it.
Okay. Well, let me get back to the beginning of what I was going to say. There's another special we watched. I'm not going to say the comic's name, nor am I going to dive into this, and here's the reason why I don't want to dive into this. I'm going to just say this. There was another black comic whose special we watched, who talked about the Will Smith Jada thing a lot. And like the saying goes, that your mother has told you, your grandmother has told you, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say none at all. Because I want to rip this comedian a whole new booty hole in regards to this special, but I'm not, and I won't. So I'm going to keep my mouth closed and leave it there.
I'm going to say that I thought that the attempt at doing a storytelling show was a really good attempt. Really good. It wasn't great. I think that it shows growth in their comedy. I thought there was some slide backwards in some of it, but I thought it was good as far as the idea of storytelling. As far as the story.
Horrendous.
But what I do want to say is, for all the black folks and white folks, any folks that came out and hit Chris up and saying, it's been over a year, this is done, You shouldn't. Why are you still talking about it? Get over it, even though he hasn't talked about it at all. I hope you go out this dude for the same passion for doing a whole special about something that didn't happen to him a year ago and do a whole special based on it.
A whole hour.
So if you're mad at Chris for doing it, how do you not say anything to this other dude who didn't even have anything to do? But the way he ties in how he is involved in it, I thought was very smart.
No, it wasn't.
Sorry. I thought it was smart.
No, it was hokey and an attempt to be deep. No. I'm gonna just say this, and I'm not saying who the person is. It's like the difference when you would have your mother take you to the grocery store and say, "Can I get a box of Fruity Pebbles?" Actual Fruity Pebbles with Barney Rubble and Fred Flintstone on the box. And instead, she got you the knockoff brand in a plastic bag called Sugary Stones. This felt like a knockoff in terms of comedic ability. Ugh.
I honestly, I'm going to say it a different way. I think if this would have been a 45-minute special, I would have really enjoyed it.
I have never seen someone try so hard to be powerfully funny and intellectual and poignant at the same time. Like Dave pulls that off. Patrice pulls that off. Where they drop gems and say shit that challenges you mentally, and it's moving and intellectual and thought-provoking, but the cocaine is fucking uncut, unstepped on purity. This dude tries so hard to be funny. It doesn't come off natural. It comes off so forced.
He doesn't have the same amount of time.
That time has nothing to do with it. There are comedians who get 5 minutes and make the most of that 5 minutes.
No, I mean, he doesn't have that much time into it, like his life.
The game?
Yeah, he was out of it.
You either have it or you don't.
You can get it.
No, you can't get it. You either have it or you don't. Dave Chappelle didn't find it. Patrice didn't find it. They had it.
I've heard stories
now,
about
nurturing it and making it the best that it could be, that's time. But that is born in you. The it is born in you.
Apparently the whole family has it.
Because of the name, it's a birthright. It's an automatic birthright. Dude, all I'm saying is like, look, man, and excuse me, this is where I often get called hater, bitter, because I have a fucking opinion. My love for who I love comedically are guys who are powerfully funny, poignant, intellectual, the total package. That's why I've fawned over Dave and Patrice so much, because them dudes and Bill Burr, they're powerhouses naturally. This guy is not natural. It's forced. Listen, physical comedy is that's when you talk about styles, guys are political, guys are blue, guys are clean, some guys are impressionists, some guys are about props a la Carrot Top, some guys are ventriloquists a la, what's my man's name, the most popular puppet guy?
Dunham.
Jeff Dunham. There's a lot of styles. Physical is a style. When I think of great comedians physically, hands down, Jim Carrey. Hands down, Robin Williams, rest in peace. Hands down, Tommy Davidson. Hands down, J.B. Smooth. Those guys are masters at physical comedy. This dude with the goofy faces and the spit hanging out the mouth and the goofy fit, it's not mine.
Dude, they were laughing. You said if they're laughing, they win.
All right, you win. If the goal is to make them laugh, you've accomplished the goal. But what separates the students from the teachers, you know.
Okay.
There's levels to this.
But I still think it was there.
And I'm going to say this last thing. What also makes the greats, you don't see them coming. I've never watched a Chappelle or a Patrice special or a Burr special and went, saw that coming. They smack you in the face when you ain't looking. This dude is so predictable. There were moments in the special where during the setup, 3 words into the setup, I paused it and went, he about to say this. Click. And sure enough, to verbatim, it's so predictable. You see it coming 100 miles away. I just, oh God. I didn't say too much. I didn't.
No, it's not. It wasn't your cup of tea. Let's put it that way. I honestly didn't think it was I honestly give him more credit for it than that. I really thought that there was some good stuff there. Johnny Carson voice.
I did not know that.
Really good stuff.
Really, really good stuff there. So there it is.
But now I just want to also say this, because going back to Chris's special, we have a joke that was very, very similar. And
that's right.
And I don't know. I think I got to give it up. But, this is the first time. There's a couple jokes that I've done over my period of time where other famous comics have had a similar take. Mine joke isn't exactly the same. It's similar. There was one that Burr and I had that Burr was, and when Burr did it, I was like, I got to get rid of it. I got to get rid of that. I got to get rid of this. This is the first time I was ever mad that I had to get rid of something. So I feel better about myself that I'm actually mad now. Like, I got to get, now I have to.
Yeah, but it sucks because you didn't steal anything.
Yeah.
And if your joke is good, you don't want to not tell it. But the problem you run into is you're worried about people saying you stole it from somebody.
So I kind of did it last night to see where it feels like someone would think that. And I think I got where I can still get into it, kill this part and get the other part. Because the end of my joke is nothing like his.
Right.
But because it's based on my family. So I just thought it was interesting. I loved it. But there's still a little bit on me that when someone as great as Chris has a similar thought and they put it on a special, that I can go, man, maybe I'm not that far off. Maybe I'm somewhere. Maybe I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
All right.
There it is.
More than enough.
I'm on 10 minutes from 2 hours. And if I had really dove into the other comedian the way I wanted to,
2.5 hours.
It'd be yes. Yes. But I didn't. God damn it.
It was good. It was good that you did it. I don't really
You know what sucks, dude? I like being and again, this is why I love Patrice so much. Not that Dave isn't honest, because he is, but Patrice was brutally honest. And I love that brutality because it's not safe at all. And that's my cup of tea comedically. And it's crazy because I want to be honest and I want to say how I feel, but that comes with consequences. And I wish it didn't, because at the end of the day, it's an opinion. Why am I not allowed to have a fucking opinion?
But for the most part, Patrice's...
Without being called a hater. It's an opinion.
But for the most part, Patrice didn't put all his angst on a person. Like, he would say it, but it was about the group, the larger group. It wasn't about a person.
No, at times he would.
On the radio, he might.
If it's an opinion, I think you should be able to do it anywhere. Like, listen, if my opinion was viewed as the same opinion as everybody else, the flow of the traffic, then as long as it's an agreement with you, then it's an okay opinion. I'm allowed to have it. But when it goes against the grain of what you think, now I'm a hater. That's such a hypocritical thing.
I think it's when everybody recognizes what you're saying. You don't have to go into it any deeper because everybody already agrees. It's when you go deeper. Like, if shit stinks. So you don't need to go, man, your shit stinks, man. You stink, man. Your shit, you got the worst shit, man. Your shit stinks. It stinks, man. You shit stinky. You don't need to go that far because we already know shit stinks. So if everybody already agrees with you that this isn't what it should be, or isn't right, or isn't the way you handle it, after you make your statement, you're done. Everything after that could be construed as being a hater.
It almost feels like it's construed that just by saying that you go against the grain.
Yeah, well,
you're a hater.
Sometimes you got to fuck the grain. And actually, fucking against the grain feels kind of good sometimes.
When you jack off with a cheese grater?
No, man. Sometimes, you just might go backwards. Like have you ever just, like, this is going to sound fucked up, but just ever rub your dick on a clit? Just rub it on the clit.
Okay.
It's kind of and you can go against the grain a little bit like that because you're not going in, you're just going side to side. Window washer. Feels good.
To her.
Me too. Right. My dick feels good. Feels good on my dick. It's against the grain.
I wasn't ready for this.
It's against the grain.
Okay.
Back and forth.
Dude, I incidentally watched Jim Jeffries' latest stand-up on the way here. Dude, the way he tackled, like it feels like, how I was kind of describing white guys feeling angry because they're not able to say the N-word, say nigga, and how dare you. It's like it's become popular. Like, and I think Dave's lit the fire. It's become popular for comedians to show how edgy they are by taking on the subject of trans. But I thought what he did with it was brilliant.
Well, he's always like his gun control bit is really what made him even more popular.
Right.
But he takes on subject. Him, Ricky Gervais, obviously, Dave. There's just people that not look for, but it resonates with them in a way that they want to talk about it because they have a distinct view and they want to make it funny. And there's some people that just fucking knock that shit out of that. And
and see, that's what I'm ultimately getting at. When you look at guys like Bill, Patrice, Dave, Jim Jeffries, the guys that have the gift can pull that off. The guys that really have the gift can tackle trans, homophobia, race, whatever else is deemed taboo and unsafe. And I have such a respect and a love for that because now this is me kind of, patting myself on the back a little bit. I have the ability to do that. I do that. So there's a reason why I would take a liking to that because as a person who can do that, I admire seeing other people do it because I go, wow, so that's the angle they took. Wow, that's what they did. Okay, I might not have hit it that way. It's a learning experience for me versus a guy who is just, dude, you're predictable, you're forcing everything. It's not natural for you. It's not a gift for you. It's a birthright because of your last name.
I like when you said not forcing because I think the difference is like, especially like Jim Jeffries on the two things that you're talking about. He ain't selling it. He isn't selling it. He isn't trying to get you to believe in it. He's just stating what he knows or how he feels about it. And he's leaving it there for you to make it. And that's the same as forced. I'm not forcing this to be funny. It's funny because it just is. I'm not selling you. I don't need to sell you. This is my joke. This is I put these words together and this is what I have to say. Like it or not, it's funny.
Yes. And it's edgy and it's thought-provoking and it's challenging naturally. Because you have the gift. You're an artist. And I applaud that. I envy that. You want dates?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that's kind of the podcast where we should end it on this date on March 11th, 2023.
Specifically. Or is it pacifically?
Let me
going back to that callback like that was just genius.
I liked it the first few times. I did. I liked it the first time. That was so. It was.
That was a forced moment of look how genius this callback is. And it wasn't a genius callback.
God loves me. The first one was fucking. It was fine. The first one was fine. I really feel the first one was right there. I wasn't even mad at the second one, but. Let me get these dates. Sorry, guys, you may have to cut this right here because I forgot what I was doing because Aries has me frustrated because I disagree with him a little bit, but I don't totally disagree with you. That's the problem. I can disagree a little bit, but then it feels like it, but it's not totally disagreeing with you. But I disagree a little bit. Okay. Dun dun dun. I always have this, and then when I go to find it, I can't find it.
The road schedule?
Yeah, I got it right here. There we go. All right. So this week, as we told you at the beginning of the podcast, we're in Syracuse, New York. We're doing Syracuse shit, which is nothing.
We're looking out the window. It's just snow.
It snowed, and we're only here for the 2 days, so we didn't have the time to go to the restaurant that Aries has been trying to get me to go to, which is Possibilities.
Damn.
And because it wasn't open.
From diners, drive-ins, and dives. They changed their hours because of COVID, I think.
And Aries couldn't get here on time because his flight was fucked up. And Aries didn't get here till like just before the show was going to start.
Man.
So no chance to eating before the show. And then today they don't open up until late. So We're right by a mall, so that's what we get to do is do the. That's what all comedians hang out at malls, man. March 17th to 18th. That's when you should be listening to this podcast. We're going to be at the Omaha Funny Bone, so that's where we're going to be. Omaha.
Omaha is known for great steaks.
Yeah, really good meat. So we should go to a
steakhouse.
We should,
but those usually don't open till 5.
We should look it up and see if we can find a good one. If you got a good one, please send it to us as soon as you hear this, because we're going to be out there on Friday and Saturday, 17th and 18th. March, come on, Aries. March 24th to the 26th. We're going to be in the Miami Improv. Let me ruin it for Aries. In Doral, Florida, which is where Donald Trump's golf course is. March 30th through April 2nd, we're going to be at LOL Comedy Club at San Antonio, Texas. And
I believe in love.
There we go. I was waiting for it. That's one of those clubs though that I do like, and it defies what a comedy club should be. Ceilings up it's so fucking high.
Yes.
Big square box.
Yes.
Shouldn't work.
But it works.
It works. Every once in a while, the wrong thing works out right.
Cripple pussy, stay wet. Who remembers finger fucking Portuguese girls on the handball court? Man, that shit was so fucking funny. Dude, it's such a Tracy thing to say. Down to every detail, finger fucking Portuguese girls. It could have been any other race of women. But why Portuguese girls?
And a handball court.
On a handball court. You would never see that. An open space where you're finger fucking a Portuguese girl on a handball court.
Let's see, April 6th through the 8th, we're going to be at the Funny Bone in Columbus, Ohio. Back in Ohio. And I like Columbus, man.
I love Columbus.
Okay.
It is the wifey of the Ohios.
There you go. April 27th through the 30th, we're going to be at the Arlington Improv. That is in Texas. We'll be right out there.
You said Texas?
Texas.
I like that.
And then May 5th through the 7th, Improv back in Ohio.
Just a bit outside.
That's
Cleveland.
Right. Cleveland, Ohio. Guys, that's a show.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.
Spears and Steinberg.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. If you'd like to know who's responsible for this shit, it was hosted by Ari Spears and Andy Steinberg, produced by Steve Merrick and Anthony Holmes, executive producer, Big Papa, Robert Kelly, and Matt Kleinschmidt for the Laugh Button podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit SpearsburgPod.com.